So today's video is just going to be a very quick chit chat showing you all about my books and the rather dangerous habit I have of buying too many when I live in a van. We're just going to get straight into it. Stay tuned.
If you haven't heard of Sarah J Maas, go and check her out. It's not everyone's cup of tea, I grant you, but if you like Lord of the Rings type, anthology or like escapism of like a multitude of books, then yeah, check these people out because there's 7 in the series. And this follows a girl called Kalena, and she is a trained assassin. And basically she has a very hidden past that nobody knows about, and she is got a big revenge story that sort of starts in book 1 and goes on through right up until book 7. There is so many plot twists with this. There are so many great characters that get created as we go through the series, and each episode of a book builds and builds and builds. And I tell you what, the intricacies of the relationships, the storyline, everything about this series just blew me away. So if you like Lord of the Rings or Chronicles of Shannara and those kind of stories where it's quite magical realism and fantasy, lots of dragons, lots of fight scenes, lots of fairy elements, but not fairies as you would imagine them to be. It's more sort of like fae, like they're kick-ass fae. This is the series for you. The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. If you're not into spiritual stuff, this is the book that I would highly recommend. And he has a huge influence on my life since the lockdown happened. I read this in the first week of lockdown, and it changed the way I lived from then on, because I was in a really bad place when lockdown hit. I had to shut my business down and I was very lost. I didn't know what to do, and the days just mingled on. I wasn't able to resume my business for a long time. I was shut and for about 8-10 months with no income and no funding. And yeah, this book got me through and got me doing step-by-step things every day so that I was still progressing in my life and in my goals. And he basically breaks down a system so that every morning or every evening you do 6 or 7 things within an hour, 10 minutes to 15 minutes each, whether that be reading, writing, goal setting, making a vision board and looking at it, doing affirmations, whatever it is that you feel you're called to do. You basically do 10-minute segments of them every day. So you set aside an hour when you first wake. I found the most effective. And you have a little journal, and you time each section, and then you finish off with some exercise, either weights or Pilates or yoga, whatever takes your fancy, so that within that first hour of the day you've been productive, you've had your exercise, you've reflected on what you want the day to bring or what has happened the day before. You do some meditation, you could read a book, one of your favourite books, and also do research as well if you wanted. And you've set yourself up for the day. So I love that book, I really love it, and I highly recommend it.
Now, a lot of you are probably going to be screaming at me going, Becky, why haven't you got a Kindle when you're in the van? And the answer is, yes, I do have a Kindle, and I have been finding that I've been reaching for it more, and I'm actually reading Three Men in a Campervan. And it's a hilarious book, and it's about three gentlemen in their retired years. They decide to buy a rickety old van and travel from the UK down through France and go eventually to Spain. And if you haven't read it, I highly recommend it, because it's a bit of a hilarious journey, and it is a true story. It's their diary, or one of them's diaries, that they've put together into a book. I will link it down below, and I think I've put it into Mel's Amazon store as well, because you can get it on Kindle or paperback. But that's a hilarious sort of non-fiction story. I do read on my Kindle, but I must confess there is something about a paperback that just excites me. I love picking up a new book, smelling it. I know it sounds weird. I just love the artwork as well, and the pleasure of opening up a new book or buying a new book. Waterstones is my happy place, and I just spend hours and hours in there or online, and I just love it. So I do find that being in a van, I'm not able to enjoy the books around me because they're not on display, whereas I can come in here and sit and see all these books around me, and it's just my happy place. When I have finished those books, I either decide to keep them or donate them, because again, living in a van, you haven't got much space. So unless they really grab me, I tend to donate them. And we have an amazing local bookshop, which is run by a charity, and I buy from there as well as donate. So it's also helping a local cause. And then the books that I really love, I do keep. You've got to be flexible, you've got to be fluid. So yes, I am living full-time van life because I don't actually live in the house anymore. We're planning a trip soon in the next few weeks to go to Scotland. So I'm going to be in the van full-time then with Mel, and I'm selling my van, and I still have my possessions here at home. So one of these days I'm going to be able to accumulate it all together and have it a little bit easier. And one thing I've learned recently, especially with traveling with Mel and going to lots of different places, try not to have everything that's precious to you in the van. I take what ones I want with me into the van, and then I've always got these to come back to, and in time I will have somewhere where I can store them long term. My top tip from learning about having my possessions and living full-time in the van is, don't rule out the idea of having a storage space or having a room in someone's house that you can have your other items stored. You know, it's nice to know that they're looked after and they're protected and they're safe from the elements or from, you know, being broken into or anything like that. Mel has his lockup back in Kent, and I currently have the room that I used to have as my bedroom as a storage room for the things that aren't in the van. And that would be my advice to you, is that whatever collection, or if you've got, you know, a huge lot of books like me, don't be afraid to keep them. You know, keep hold of the things that you love, and just work it out. Yes, they're not technically in the van, but it doesn't matter. Van life is fluid, and I've learned that a lot in the last few months, that even though I've basically separated my life into 3 different sections. You know, I've got my stuff up here in this room. I live full time in the van with Mel, even though it's on the driveway sometimes when we're not moving around. And I've got my business. So I've got 3 fragments of life that are pulling me in different directions all the time. Ask around for friends and family if they've got a storage space, if you want to move full-time in your van. I mean, some of you are just weekenders, so you haven't even got to worry about it. By all means, collect all the books or the knickknacks that you want. The most important thing is that van life opens up the world of possibility, whether it's a weekend thing that you go and do or whether you live in your van full-time. Indulge in your loves and your passions. Don't crush them. We'll be bringing you a new video every week as well as van life stuff, so don't worry, I'm still going to be doing the van life stuff, but I'm going to be adding in lots more topics of things that interest me and that are part of my world. Lovely to see you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we hope that you have a good week, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.